And we are live. Hello, everyone. I hope you all are having a good evening. My name is Faiza Yousuf, and we have a wonderful guest today. So, Taha is here with us. I'm not going to take a lot of time introducing him because he's going to do it himself. Yeah, over to you, Taha.
Thank you, Faiza. Hi, everyone. I'm Taha Hussain. I'm a leadership and career coach. And today, I'm going to talk about teaching you how you can use your own power to fast track your career and your dreams. I ask questions when I see things that don't make logical sense, things that seem like miracles. For example, when my daughter Safina was 18 months old, one day she walked up to me and she was crying and she was holding her hand like this. And she came in and I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Boo, boo." I looked at her hand, everything seemed fine. And so I did what most of us do. I kissed her wrist. And she stopped crying. She wiped her tears. She looked at me. She smiled. She hugged me. And she went back to her work, her play. And that was something odd. I've seen that happen, but experiencing that was a different moment. I felt like I had some powers, but I couldn't explain why I was able to kiss her boo-boo goodbye. And then a similar situation, I was at work and I was working with my team members, and they all belonged to different groups. They were architects of different areas. And we used to meet once every quarter to think about the problems we are going to solve in that quarter. And as we were discussing, a person walked in. That person seemed to be in the position of authority. We didn't know him. We continued discussing our problems. And we got stuck at one of the problems. We started discussing the pros and cons. After 5 minutes, that person asked, "What are the pros of the approach? What are the cons of the approach?" And then after hearing that, he said, "Looks like the pros are better for option B. Let's go with the option B." And so everyone moved ahead. About 15 seconds into the discussion, I said, wait. Why are we stopping? Why are we moving on? And so the guy across the room said, "Because I made a decision. We should move on." And to him, I said, with all due respect, I haven't seen you before. I don't know who you are, but I've worked with these folks. And they are experts in their area. And until they say we should move on, we should stay at the topic. The guy stayed at me for 5 seconds. It was an awkward moment. And then he said, "I'm having two thoughts. Half of my brain is telling me to kick you out of the room. And the other half is telling me to listen to your idea. And I'm still deciding." So I said, "Is it the right side of your brain that's telling you to listen to the idea?" He said, "What kind of stupid question is that?" I said, "You have more gray hair on the right side. It's a sign of wisdom and experience." He laughed, we all laughed, and we moved on. I never saw the guy again. But doesn't that defy logic? Like, I should have been worried about my job, but I wasn't even thinking about it. All I thought was, this doesn't make sense going with an option A and B because these guys didn't agree to it. Why are we moving on? I did not think about the person using authority over me and me losing my job. I just moved ahead and I asked that question. I challenged him. That requires courage. Now, when you're not using logic, it doesn't make sense. There is no logical reason for you to say that. You should listen to authority. That guy has the authority maybe, and he's using something to do that. So I asked these questions about how do we get this power to do the right thing, but it doesn't make sense to us. And so a few months later, something really unexpected happened to me. I experienced divorce, and I was divorced, and I lost connection to my two children. I became depressed. I was sad, and a lot of anxiety grew in me. People kept telling me to think positive. Look at the positive side. The internet said the same thing. Focus on the positive, and everything will be fine. And so that's what I did. And then one day I was in a similar meeting when somebody used authority to make a decision inappropriately. And I was going to stop them, but the thought was running in my mind what to say, but my mouth went dry. My throat was dried. I couldn't open my mouth. Everyone was talking and I'm thinking, why can't I talk? I was unable to move myself. It seemed like somebody had hacked my body. I couldn't control my own actions. In that day, I learned something important that I had never learned before. The brain of us, even though it has two sides, right and left, conceptually, it has two parts. One is the rational side, and the other is the emotional side. Some people refer to the emotional side as the irrational side. And that's a mistake we do. But we'll get to that. Rational side, the emotional side. And the difference is the rational mind is concerned with reasoning. It doesn't decide things. It creates the reasoning to influence the emotional mind to make a decision. Because the emotional mind is the decision maker. We make decisions based on emotions, but we use rational reasoning, logical reasoning to influence the emotional mind to make a decision. And that's one of the biggest mistakes we make. There was a mental institution where people had damage to their brain. They gave them different menu items and they asked them to talk about the items in the menu and as to what they think about it. And people with different knowledge, like some people were concerned about calories and health. They talked about carbs, fat, and other contents. Some people like taste. So they talked about which one tastes better and sort of those things. But when they asked them to make a decision as to which one they want to eat, people who had damage to their limbic system, the one that controls our emotional state, they froze. Just like I couldn't talk. They didn't know what to do. They were confused. We make decisions using our emotional mind, but we make the mistake of using our rational reason, the logical reason to do that part. And so I went on a research to uncover what happened to me and how can I reconnect my rational mind with my emotional mind. There was a disconnect now. My events in my life had created anxiety. They had created depression and sadness, and I was unable to cope with those emotions. And what I learned in the reconnecting process gave me a new opportunity to look at the world. I saw the world in a different way. And within 6 months, I experienced tremendous growth personally and around me. I started leading people and they experienced growth. They experienced the joy of growth. And so I uncovered a new mechanism to connect deeper with ourselves, deeper with other people, that makes achieving our goals a walk in the park. And now I teach people how to do that, and I find joy in it. Today, I will teach you exactly how to do that. So if you've been wanting to do something difficult in your life and you find it hard to do, I will show you exactly how to do that while you experience the joy in doing so. The key over here is to understand the difference in the rational mind and the emotional mind. And we can explore that in much more detail. When I was growing up, and even when I went for my undergrad studies and master's studies, nobody taught how do we work with the emotional aspect of this. In fact, when you look around, we create this disgust towards emotions. You are an emotional person. Don't act childish. I want you to act professional. We attach this negative feeling or negative value towards emotions. We create disgust towards them. And that keeps us away from working with ourselves at a deeper level. Because after all, we are emotional beings. We make decisions based on emotions, not based on rational reasoning. We are not logical beings. We are biological. Bio is the emotion part. And then there is still logical. Hence the term emotional intelligence. We need to learn emotional intelligence to guide us to make the right decisions and move towards that. There's a famous quote, knowledge is power. How many times you have acquired some knowledge, but you fail to act on it? Like you know what to eat healthy, what to avoid, which activities to do to burn more calories, hit the gym. And so you make all the plans and scheduling, 6 a.m. alarm, you're going to wake up, you're going to hit the gym, you're going to eat some healthy calories. How many times you actually end up doing it happily versus pushing yourself, getting out of it? That's the rational reasoning part. We use our emotional brain like a donkey. We push ourselves, we punish ourselves to do things that we don't want to do because emotions are bad. And that's what we have been taught to do. And what I learned is how to exactly work with our emotional mind. Instead of pushing ourselves, we want to create pleasure so that we love doing what we do. And when we do that, there is no need to push. There is no need to build habits. And we'll talk about that as well. Knowledge is power in the ancient times. We used to travel far distances just to get knowledge. A lot of times for months on foot. And once we are there, we have to learn a new language and then learn that knowledge. The process of attaining knowledge would set us on the path to create momentum to learn this new knowledge. We would already be in the momentum to learn the new knowledge. There is no need to push ourselves. We're already getting there. And once we have the knowledge, we start incorporating it because the momentum exists. In today's world, knowledge is at our fingertips, this phone. We have the knowledge over here. Browse the apps, learn stuff. If you don't know it, use Google Translate. In fact, attaining knowledge is so easy now, it's actually entertaining. TikTok videos are like, it's all the jokes, but they'll teach you new pieces of knowledge. We do not create the momentum in the process. So in today's world, knowledge alone is not power. Knowledge times momentum equals power. And momentum comes from the emotional part. Knowledge goes into the rational mind, but momentum comes by creating constant action. And so we talk about building habits, but the way we build habits is wrong. We need to create momentum using our emotional part of the mind. And so this is what we're going to talk about. Today, I'm going to share information with you, which will help you create momentum in your life towards your goals. Here's a caveat though. The information I'm about to share is something that we haven't heard before. A lot of times we are not used to it. In fact, we have been conditioned to overlook that information. So when you hear the information, it may sound to you, it may sound uncomfortable for you. Okay, but if you hear the information, listen to the information as if you would try clothes, like you would go on and buy new clothes. You go to a shop, you try on the clothes first before you buy them. And so I ask you to do the same thing. Listen to the information as if you're trying out with full intent. And if you don't like it, just don't buy it. Okay. And to do that, it's going to be hard to do. So it's to make it easy for yourself. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1. Why do I believe it's true? Question number 2. When will I use it? Question number 3. How will I use it? That's all. Why do I believe it's true? When will I use it? How will I use it? Okay. Now, let's go to the journey about understanding what's stopping us from creating this momentum. And before I can give you the solution, we have to understand the problem that we're trying to solve. And the problem we're trying to solve is rooted in our values. We make decisions based on the values we have. We value emotions, pain, pleasure. We move towards pleasure, we move away from pain. Okay, we move towards pleasure, we move away from pain. Okay, not so much rocket science. About 110 years ago, there was a guy called John Watson. He was an American psychologist, and he founded what we call today behaviorism. Watson proposed a reward-based system for human beings to live up to their full potential. He had good intentions, and he created a reward-based system. He said we should have positive reinforcement for good things we do, and for when we do bad things, we should have negative reinforcement. I told you, it's not rocket science. Create pain to move away from things that we don't want to do, and create pleasure, reward-based, positive reinforcement towards things we want to do. And the biggest threat to this reward system is unconditional love. It's like hacking the reward system. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you are doing negative stuff or positive stuff. I'm still going to love you. And that's unconditional love. And the biggest threat to the reward system is of unconditional love is by the mothers. Mothers have a tendency to give their offspring unconditional love. And so he suggested that we should separate babies, as soon as they're born from the mothers, because mothers have a tendency to spoil their children because they don't value the reward system. And lo and behold, every one of us started doing that thing. We see it all around us. When we go to work, we have a reward system. If you perform well, we're going to reward you with bonuses and all. If you perform bad, we're going to fire you. We're going to take your bonus away. We're going to give you warnings about it. When we are in school, we get punished for doing bad behavior. When we do good stuff, we get rewarded for that. And we take that into our own internal system. We create the same reward system to motivate us, right? If you're not getting up for you plan to hit the gym, but you're not getting up at 6 a.m., we start threatening ourselves. We start punishing ourselves with oh, you're going to remain fat. We tell ourselves the fear of future, that, things won't happen for us. We won't find the right spouse. We will not find the right job. We do things by creating pain for us in our present moment, because that will make us move away from that painful state. Now, here's the problem. When you move yourself in the painful state, you are only moving yourself momentarily, which means next day, you got to do it again. You got to do it again. And the theory is that if you keep on doing for 21 days, you have created a habit in yourself. You know what? I tried that. Many people tried that. It doesn't stick. Some habits stick. A lot of them fail. Pushing yourself doesn't work all the time. It's painful. Think about people pushing you. Push is not good. Push is bad energy, bad. But that's how we have been taught to do. Okay? So that's one of the biggest challenges we have. Now, my son Aman, when he was learning to walk, I remember that day distinctly. He got up and his legs were shaking. You can see when your muscles are shaking, it means that you are having pain, but you're building strength. But he was happily standing as he went up. He stood up, he looked at me, and I was like clapping for him. And then he fell down and he looked at me again. I had two choices. Like, if I had followed what John Waston suggested, that behavior wasn't right. I should have told him, you are weak. Stand up. Prove yourself to me. I should have not talked to him like that. That's what people do. But, we say, oh, it's a baby. Don't do it to a baby. You know what? Even adults, our emotional mind is always up at the age of a 5-year-old. We don't grow beyond a 5-year-old emotional mind. That's a fact we have. You can't fight that fact. Emotionally, you will always be a 5-year-old. What I did to him, though, is I still clapped, well, even though he fell. And as I was clapping, I was cheering for him more. He smiled and he got back up again. And that's how you create a pull environment for people. You work with the pleasure. You don't work with the push environment. Now, another psychologist, Harry Harlow, in the 1950s, he was concerned with our skills to solve problems. And so he was researching with monkeys. Monkeys are closest offspring we have. Monkeys are closest to us. So he was looking at how monkeys love solving problems and what can he do to improve their skills. And so what he noticed, what he observed, that monkeys, they just love solving problems. Just the sheer pleasure of solving a problem is reward for them. It's pleasurable. Now he added the reward system. When they solved the problem, he gave them a treat. And when they didn't, he didn't give them a treat. Now what he found out was the reward system actually interfered with them in solving the problem. Monkeys stopped solving the problem. They were looking for the treats. It was easy to get a treat and feel pleasure from it. When I was a child, when I was little, my elder sister, she's much smarter than I am. And my mother took us for an admission test to a new school, Beacon House. And I went in first and the teacher tested me. And I still remember this day, the problems I solved, I loved it. And as I came out, she gave me a candy. So when I was coming out, I showed the candy to my sister that, you get a candy afterwards. I didn't know that there was candy, but now she knew that there was a candy. So as she went in, all she was interested in was not solving the problem. She wanted the candy. She didn't solve problems. She came out, she got the candy, and she didn't get in. And so, but now if you look at it, she's a biochemist, she's a microbiologist, she's now a business analyst. She's much smarter than I am. But that day, because there was a reward and she was waiting to get the reward, she didn't solve the problem. Reward system comes in our way of solving problem. We look for the rewards now. So using this reward system of giving you positive and negative reinforcement doesn't work. Now, Harry Harlow didn't stop here. He wanted to do even more research, and he wanted more monkeys for his research. So he started breeding his own monkeys, and he did what Watson suggested. As soon as the babies were born, he separated the babies from the mothers. And when the babies grew to a certain age, he brought them out and he gave them problems, puzzles to solve. None of the babies solved the problems. All those monkeys, what he noticed, they were scared as if something's going to happen. They didn't have a sense of safety. So he did more research, and you can look him up. There's a lot of research he did in identifying what really makes us solve problems. And he found out that human beings have an innate need for unconditional love. We don't want people to love us because we are doing good or bad. We just want unconditional love. And when we don't have that, we don't feel safe in our environment. And when we don't feel safe in our environment, we don't play. When we don't play, we don't develop problem-solving skills. Play is very important to develop problem-solving skills. But what we do now is, if the child has not finished the homework, we would stop them from play. We use play as a reward system. You're going to play, you're not going to play. And that's one of the biggest problems we have. We treat ourselves like donkeys, like animals. But we are, in fact, very intelligent. And once you grasp this concept, you realize that there is something called emotional intelligence. We are biological beings. We are supposed to work with our biology and our rational mind together. It's not like emotional mind versus rational mind. This is a team. And the team is not about hitting yourself or punishing yourself. When we do that, we don't reach our full potential. Okay. So that's the first part that, that's difficult. A few years ago, I remarried. My wife and I were on our honeymoon, and we were on the breakfast table. My wife saw a mosquito. Bam! She killed it. So that I was like, wow. And she said, I hate mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes. It's like, okay, what do you hate more than a mosquito? She started thinking, and then she looked at my forehead. And then she zoomed in and she said, 2 mosquitoes. Don't move. And she went like this. I was like, no! And so sometimes we have these tools, and we use these tools inappropriately in a direction that can cause harm to us. Safina, when now she's 10 years old. Last year when she was 9, she started sending me pictures of Pug. Pug is a type of dog. Girls like to dress them up, like in ballerina dresses and all. The dog doesn't mind. That's why they want it. It looks cute to them. And she was giving me a hint. It was a few weeks before her birthday. She wanted that dog for her birthday. Anyways, afterwards, I went out for my late afternoon walk. As I went out, I saw my neighbor with 3 dogs. He was walking them. One of them was a pug. I had never noticed that. And as I went around the house, there's a pug behind at the back. And there was a lady sitting in a car with the dog. And the dog was a pug. Then later that evening, I went to a restaurant and I saw another person with a dog. And that dog was, you guessed it, it was a pug. So it seemed like the universe was giving me signs that I should buy a pug for my daughter. Have you ever experienced that you want to buy a car and suddenly that car's, all you notice around you is that car? You want to buy a specific color of a jean and all you notice is that people wearing that same jeans around you? There is a scientific explanation for that. It's called reticular activating system. It's a system in our brain that filters information. We receive 11 million bits of data every second. What we smell, what we hear, what we see, a lot of information coming in. Okay? But we can only process up to 70 bits of data. 11 million, 70. Big difference. Okay? So what this system does, RAS, it filters out that information into 70 bits. And the way it does that, it keeps track of what we are concerned about. So if I just heard pug and I'm thinking about pug is in my memory, that's one of my concerns. And so it's going to look at the information and it's going to allow pugs to come through. It wasn't like I never saw my neighbor carrying a pug, but I never thought it was important for me to filter through the information. So my mind wasn't doing that, but now I was thinking about it. Okay, now after a while, this is called short-term memory or short-term concern. The pugs went away, I stopped thinking about pugs. But then there are long-term concerns we have, and they keep on running, just like processors on a computer. You see them taking CPU cycles, you can't see them, but just because you can't see them, it doesn't mean they are not running. They're running, they're taking up our CPU cycles, which means we are not present in the moment. When we are solving problem, we are not using our full power of our brain. Okay. So how does this happen? How do we get into this long-term processes getting stuck over there? Emotions. When we don't deal with our emotions, they get stuck over there. And we are not taught how to deal with emotions. For example, like what I was doing. I had anxiety. Oh, I am going to look at the positive side. I'm going to ignore what's going on in my head. I'm going to ignore my emotions, and I'm going to use the same RAS to think in short term about something positive. I would think about something positive, like, you're going for an interview. You're feeling anxiety. I'm going to go over there, say, you know what? I'm successful. I'm successful. I'm successful. I will stand like this. This is all on the internet. You can read, and I'm going to feel good in the moment. The interview starts. Suddenly, after some time in between, RAS affects it, wears off. Second interview begins, and now I have anxiety. You will snack back to where you are because your emotions are still running in the background. Okay. Now, this information does work sometimes. Like a baby is hurt. You tell the baby, look at the bird. And the baby starts looking at the bird, forgets about the pain in a moment because RAS kicks in. They are either looking at a real bird or an imaginary bird. By the moment RAS kicks out and they focus back, the pain goes away. So there is no pain. There is no long-running pain going on. But if the pain is bad, if the damage is big, they're going to come back and they're going to start crying again. And you can tell them a mouse, a bird, whatever you want to, they'll stop believing you. They'll continue crying. Haven't you all experienced that? That happens a lot. Same thing happens with us. You can pretend that you don't have a flat tire, but if you have a flat tire, you have to attend to the flat tire. Saying my tire is fine, my tire has air, would not put air magically in the tire. You have to address it. Okay. So, but when we do this, we suppress our emotions. And we suppress our emotions, they stop showing up, but they're still running in the background. And that prevents you from reaching your full potential. The thing is, we haven't been taught how to deal with our emotions. No school teaches us. I mean, you have to go and do psychology and become a psychiatrist. I have my good psychiatrists, and they still don't know how to live with their own emotions. So these are the two problems you're facing. And I'm going to show you a way to solve them. Okay. There was a factory in the Midwest America, and one day everything came to a halt. Everything is stopped. Nobody knew what happened. And they were losing millions by the hour. Then a technician came, he observed, and then he walked towards a panel. He opened it up, he took out his screwdriver, and he turned one screw 20 degrees clockwise. Bam, everything started working. Everyone went back to work. The CEO was happy. He came up to the guy and said, "What do I owe you?" And the technician said, $10,000. He was like, "That seems unreasonable. I want a full bill, the labor, the bill of materials, everything." And the guy said, "Sure, give me a piece of paper and pen." And so he took the paper and pen and he scribbled something for a few seconds, gave it back to him. The CEO read what it said, he smiled, and he happily gave him $10,000. The paper said $1 to turn the screw, $9,999 to know which screw. Successful people don't turn all the screws around. They know exactly which screws to turn. And this is what you're going to learn today. And what you're going to learn is something that we haven't been taught, like I mentioned before. The way to deal with our emotions doesn't lie in using rational reasoning. It's about using emotional intelligence. We need to connect with ourselves at a deeper level. That's the first solution we have to do. We have to figure out a way, how can we connect with ourselves at a deeper level? Second thing, how do we motivate ourselves to do things without pushing ourselves? Instead, we want to create pleasure for us. Pushing doesn't work for us. We don't want to treat ourselves like a donkey. We want to create pleasure for us. And what happens, you move towards a force, and that force doesn't require you to put an effort. You're not pushing, you're being pulled towards something. The pull feeling is effortless. And we'll talk about that with examples. So let's connect ourselves. How do we connect with ourselves? How do we connect with other people today? We ask questions to figure out common interest. Okay. Say you like Spider-Man, I like Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, right? So we have a discussion and we are discussing, I don't know why we're discussing. We're discussing because we just want to talk, we're networking. Okay, so what do you expect? Well, once we network, we know each other, then, I don't know, we might pull favors for each other. We'll be advantages. Okay, sure. But do you trust each other? No, you don't. How many friends do we have on Facebook? Maybe thousands of friends. Would you go out with any one of them at night at 2 a.m. alone? You don't trust all of them. And that's what connection means. When we connect with common interest, that's superficial. That's superficial. That's not real connection. So I'm going to show you a simple technique to connect deeply. And I'll tell you about what you're dealing with, why we're not doing that. First part, we haven't been taught. Okay, so that it feels different to connect at an emotional level. We also have this disgusting feeling towards emotions. Like, oh, the person is crying. I don't like crying. They're discussing the personal things like where they did bad. Oh, you end up judging people because they did something bad and they're ashamed about it. We just want to have happy connections. But once you learn this, it's effortless. Okay. And while we push away from pain, when we build deeper connection, we build deeper connections on pain. When you listen to somebody's pain, the bond that you create with them is that of trust. They can trust you with information. Okay. And the way to do that is by not judging them. That's how you want to start first. Okay. So somebody comes to you, say, hey, you know what? Say your friend comes to you and says, I had a tough day at work today. I was so stressful. And then I was at this grocery store and there was a lady in front of me in the aisle at the checkout stand. And her baby just kept crying and kept crying, throwing tantrums. And I just lost it. I told the woman that, she should take care of the baby. She should control the baby. She's getting a tantrum. It's unpleasant for us. And now when I'm down, I feel like I shouldn't have done that. Okay, now here's the thing you can do about it. The reward system kicks in. That's how we have been conditioned. Well, he's a bad person. You start feeling bad towards this person, what he did. He shouldn't have done that. So you feel like telling the person or showing them what they did is wrong. Because that's how we have been trained. Okay, that's how we treat ourselves. Okay. So the first way to go in, we're going to use the same power of RAS, but the right way. We're going to temporarily tell ourselves something that will allow us to put this reward system out of the picture. Human beings are not perfect. We all make mistakes. So we're going to say to ourselves, humans make mistakes. Just 3 words. That's called compassion. So first part is compassion. Once you say this to yourself, now in your short-term memory, you feel like this person is not perfect. I mean, he's just human. Okay, so your reward system goes away. Now, as you're listening to them, you don't want to suggest things, what they should have done, what they should do now. They don't want that information. What you are doing is now empathy. Empathy is about perspective taking. You're not sharing your perspective. You are trying to understand their perspective. And the way you want to do that is being curious about what they're feeling, asking questions to explore the feeling. And the question should not indicate how they should feel. That's another mistake we do. We try to throw these suggestions through questions. And that's still giving them a perspective, your own perspective. Don't do that part. You're not here to fix them. They're not looking for a solution. They're just sharing information. I know it sounds odd. Why they're sharing information with me? I don't feel comfortable. But that will create this bond. They are feeling bad at the moment and they're being vulnerable. And when they're being vulnerable, you have an opportunity to become vulnerable as well. You know what I do? I say, me too. I'm not a perfect citizen as well. Sometimes I feel stressed and I take it out on people as well. And then later I feel bad. When they listen to that, they realize the obvious truth. They are also human beings and they can make mistakes. Now, this is not about improving them. Okay. If you want to give suggestions, they won't take it because they don't trust you. We only take suggestions from people that we trust. So if they're not trusting you, how can they take the information? You have to build that deeper connection first. You have to build that trust first. And so creating this trust between other human beings will help us. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay. So creating, where was I? Let me get back to my thoughts right now.
You were talking about creating trust.
Building trust with people. And that happens when you build a deeper connection at the emotional level. So if you want to give suggestions to people, you first have to build that trust with them, and then they have to ask for that. When they're sharing information with you about something they didn't do well, and they're sharing their pain, they are expecting you just to listen. That's how emotions work. When people share what they're feeling, they feel better about it. It's like they take you to a dark room and they're sharing information with you. But we have a tendency to turn the lights on. It is bad. And so we do that by judging people. We do that by sympathizing with them. Sympathy is a newbie mistake that people make when they're learning empathy. We see what they're doing. We say, oh, I'm so sorry. What happened to you today? Yeah, you know what? That lady must be feeling really bad afterwards. I'm glad I'm not in your position. It's like, what? Yeah, you're telling them, you're shaming them. And so we want to stay away from sympathy. We want to feel what they're feeling, and we want to give them a feeling that it's okay if they're not perfect. People make mistakes. When that happens, people realize that and people make amends. They change their actions, sometimes automatically on their own, but they want to feel better. So that's how you build connection, a deeper connection with other people. Okay, so how do you do it with yourself? Well, just place the word self before everything. Self-compassion, self-empathy. When I started learning this, I realized I actually have two voices in my head, which I had never noticed. I thought I only had one voice, but I have two voices. The first voice is thinking, like the title for tomorrow's presentation, right? And as you're thinking about it, suddenly there'll be another voice that will say, I wonder what my son is doing. Different topic. One is thinking that you're doing intentionally. That's from your rational mind. The other one is your emotional mind. It's thinking about feelings, son, what he's doing. And so we tend to suppress that. No, I want to focus on presentation. Let's not work on that. The thing is that thought, that emotion is taking your CPU cycles. You're stuck. No matter how much you want to focus on a presentation, it won't be the best one. So stop your presentation work and ask yourself and explore the feeling. Why? What you're thinking about it. Start having this conversation in your head. I know it sounds weird, but the dude talks in his head. Yes, there are two voices. You got to talk. You got to have that conversation. And when you do that conversation with empathy, with compassion, self-compassion, as it's happening, think about the same thing. Error is human. Human beings make mistakes. I'm a human being. When you do that, you don't judge yourself. And then you start exploring the feeling. You listen to the emotion. You ask, what are you thinking about? Oh, I wonder what's he doing in his high school at the moment. Well, must be taking a class. What are you concerned about? Well, in high school, people have different friends and not all friends have good habits. So you realize that what your emotions are, underlying concerns are. And it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to show, yeah, probably he's fine. He's thinking too much. We have a tendency to suppress it. Don't do that part. Let your emotional mind talk everything about it. When you do that, you build a deeper connection with yourself. And that connection is so strong, you become a team. So when you tell yourself, hey, I want to do these things because they're good for me, your emotional mind says, I'm on board with that. You know why? Because we have a deeper connection. And that's what happened to me. I kept suppressing the concerns that my mind had. I kept thinking positive, positive, positive. In reality, I was suppressing my emotions. And then my mind completely dried up and it said, I ain't pretending anymore. We're not a team. So that's the first part. That's how you build that deeper connection. Now, let's go to the second part. Now you have built a connection with yourself. The same thing you can apply to build connection with other people. Now, when you do that and you have empathy for people, you start learning about their passion. You start learning about their pain. Okay. And when you do that, magic happens because you love solving problems. If someone's having pain or you're having pain, you want to solve that. You go on a journey to solve things for other people that creates a pull energy. You know, we tend to get scared because we feel failure. If we try something, we're going to fail because we're doing it for ourselves. But when we do for the people, the anchor is on somebody else. And that's the pull part. We get pulled towards solving their problems. And when we do that, we have a need for contribution. And that gives us fulfillment. It's one of our 6 basic needs, fulfillment. And towards that fulfillment, on that journey, we learn new things we never thought we could learn. And we just learn them like that. I'll give an example. So in the first 6 months on this journey, Yahoo closed down all their offshore offices for development, India, China, other places. And so there was one team in India that had about 18 people, director, managers, and software developers, and only 6 of them opted to come. Other took the golden handshake. And I used to work with this team once a week. I would call them for their design and the problems they're solving, the backlog. And so that week when I called, everyone, those 6 people, they were all worried. And so I explored their feeling as to what they're thinking and what they were thinking about their safety. We had a system called stack ranking, again, reward-based system. If you don't do good, we're going to fire you. And so they were worried about what happens to them. You know, are they safe? Because nobody in that team, the managers and directors, were actively involved in the development anymore because they knew in 1 month they'll be gone. They have a golden handshake. So now there's teams of engineers, which were mostly young people, you know, people with less than 5 experience, except one of them. They were worried about what's going to happen to their future, what happens to their career, what happens to performance. Are they coming or not? And so I listened to their concerns, I explored the feeling, and I went back. And my job changed automatically. I started working with their stakeholders in the Sunnyvale office, California, the project managers, getting requirements, what the needs are, what KPIs to move, and calling them every day to have this team meeting so I can keep the ball rolling, and kept answering their questions about their safety, are they safe or not, and what's happening, giving them visibility. Within a month, my manager called me up and he said, I want you to lead this team. And I asked him why he wanted to lead it. He said, because you have created a safety for them. They feel that you can lead them better than anyone. I was going to hire a manager, but I'm going to make you the manager. I felt good about it. When the team came, so on this process, by the way, I learned project management. I learned running a team. And my expertise up till now was design and coding. I wasn't doing project management and program management and KPIs and backlog management and what things people should be doing. A lot of growth, effortless. Didn't have to push myself, just pull towards it. So then the team came and we had one UI engineer. When I saw the user interface, I didn't like it. It had like, you had to click a lot here and there. It looked really old. And so when I asked the person, what does he think? You know, where does he want to grow? What he wants to do? He wanted to learn some new JavaScript libraries that were out there in the market, but he wasn't getting the opportunity. And it seems like he wants to do it, but he's not really doing it. And he felt like he should be doing it. And so when you hear the word should, I should be doing this, I should be doing that part, that means you're pushing yourself. What you want to hear is that I must do this. That's the pull energy. And so I sent him to for user experience testing. Yahoo did that a lot. He experienced how the users, when they use his user interface, what difficulties they were facing. In that process, he connected with their pain points. And then he came back and he was excited. He wasn't feeling bad. A little bad. And we discussed that. We talked about it, what he can do. And I showed him that he can learn user experience, which he lacks at the moment. And he can learn these new libraries to build a user interface that the world hasn't seen before. I gave him a resource for user experience who taught him how to build his user interface. In less than a month, he created the interface that the sponsor, the executive sponsor, went around proudly demonstrating it to everyone that my team built this user interface. That was an amazing interface he did. He got promoted for that too. But that's not the real growth. The real growth is he solved the problem through pull. He learned the new scripts. He learned user experience, which he never thought he would. And he ended up learning some new libraries. The second person in the team was doing another project on which was not big data. This team did a lot of work on big data technologies, Hadoop. And the team needed help for another person. And I didn't have a budget for it. And this person was the senior most person and didn't have expertise to learn big data. And the team wanted this person to also coach them because he was the senior most person and had good programming experience and design experience. So when I spoke with him, he also wanted promotion, but he didn't have growth that was happening. And he was sort of bored with what he was doing. When I saw his code, he was an excellent Java developer. And the team needed help on some Java stuff for performance, but they also needed help to convert big Latin scripts into a new language called Hive. And we had a lot of backlog to work on and create new work using the Hive language. This person learned the entire code base because the team needed the help. And the way it happened was the connection that he had with his team members. And he learned from the people who were like 2 levels junior than him. And he learned this new language, converted the entire code base in less than 3 months. My boss at that time was the chief architect. When I presented his case to get, highly exceeds in performance for that quarter, he was surprised because this person had averages for the last five quarters. He was surprised, why am I giving this person this highly exceeds rating? So he didn't believe me. And he opened up GitHub in that meeting with my peers. And everybody saw that the code base converted from Big Latin to Hive, and his name was all over the place. My boss was an excellent big data developer. He looked at me and he was like, okay, that's some impressive work he did. He didn't get promoted. But when I went to the person telling him he get promoted, he was still happy. He was like, I don't need to be promoted. I'm so happy what I did. And I learned things that I thought I would never learn. All right, last important story. These days we are facing, we are looking at the World Cup of T20. And when you think about the World Cup in cricket, especially of people from my generation, you can't just stop yourself and think about the 92 World Cup. That was the worst team we had, by the way. And we still won the World Cup. I'll tell you why it happened. Imran Khan had played several World Cups before that. That wasn't the first World Cup he played. But this time, his energy was different. It was a pull energy, a very strong pull energy. If it wasn't for Shaukat Khanum Memorial Hospital, he would have not won the World Cup. In '85, he lost his mother to cancer. And he witnessed other people, poor people, going through the experience of cancer. It's painful. They didn't have the money to support the treatment or use the painkillers. So in 1989, he started a charity for Shaukat Khanum Memorial Hospital. Now think about it. The guy doesn't have experience in charity. He's a cricketer. He doesn't have experience in building hospitals, medical care. Imran Khan today is the best person to collect charity. It just happened when we had the floods. He just gets on the phone, opens it up, and he collects charity. He knows exactly how to do it now. He's a champ at it. Okay. So in '92 World Cup, he realized that if I win the World Cup for my countrymen, that's an emotional connection. We have this emotional attachment to cricket. And so if I win it for them, I will build that connection, that trust with them. And I'll be able to help everyone with this charity, and they'll give the money for this cause. And that's what exactly happened. Within 6 weeks of winning the World Cup, he got 1.5 million pounds, and he used his own proceeds of the winning towards that hospital. Today we have the hospital because he felt that pull energy towards solving the pain point of people. And that's how our power works. Power is not something you keep. Think about a powerhouse. It has a knowledge on how to generate power. But until we create the momentum, not the action, action is by push. Momentum is constant, it's easy, it's pull energy. So powerhouse has the knowledge, it creates a momentum, and it generates power. Power generation is not for itself. There is no power when you are the one only who can use it. Power is for other people, for the world. And when you do that, you feel the pleasure of the power that you generated, and you want to generate more and more power. He's not solving now just the cancer problem. At a much bigger level, he wants to solve all the problems for us. And that's what pleasure looks like. You start removing your limiting beliefs as to what you can do, and you just start doing it. It doesn't feel like an effort. It's effortless. You just start moving towards that. So if you want to change your career, stop pushing yourself that I should be doing it, I should be doing it. Find a cause that you'll be helping your children, your family, your team members, your neighbors, or your country people. Anything works over here. Find a genuine cause. But to do that, you first have to connect yourself with yourself and with others. So you can find your passion, what really motivates you, what creates a pleasurable energy in you, what creates a pull power in you. Okay? And for that, there is no habit building. There is no habit building. Just that process. And the sequence is important like a recipe. Self-compassion, then self-empathy. Self-compassion, self-empathy. Do not forget compassion first before you apply the empathy, because you'll end up judging people, end up judging ourselves. Okay? And then you find the passion, and then you create that pull energy. You can kiss the boo-boo goodbye with just creating this pull energy. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Taha. Just let me change it. Okay, great. So I'm just taking a look at social media. There are a lot of nods, people saying superb, indeed, so true, that's so true, well said. I don't see a lot of questions, but a lot of people nodding to the things that you've said. And of course, it made sense to them. There are three specific questions that are repeated that I would like to ask. Number one is from Asra. She's asking that you're speaking about empathy. So can you share an example of empathy for one's own self?
Awesome. Okay. Can I get the other two questions so I can see how to best answer them?
Okay. So the next question is from Hira. She's saying that I want to know that how did you stumble upon leadership from hardcore engineering? And third question is from Anam, and she's asking that if we talk about building relationships, so it's always a two-side thing. Even if I change myself, how do I guarantee that the other person understands my intention also?
Those are such amazing questions. Okay, and who asked this last question?
So that's Anam, the last question. Yeah.
Okay. So Asra, Hira, and Anam, and everybody who has any other question, please do ask. I'm going to talk about this. So let me give you an example about the empathy for yourself. I said that's a great question, and that's how we build a deeper connection with ourselves through empathy. So I was actually having a thought a few days ago. I haven't seen my kids, for a few months now. They're in Toronto, I'm in Karachi. So I was thinking about them and about my son. And as I was about to hit the bed, I was thinking about the speech that I'm going to prepare. And the thought came to my mind about, I was missing him. I was thinking about him a lot. And so as I was working on this, I realized that, hey, you know what? I should probably message him to see if he has time to talk to me and if he's back from his school. And so he wasn't, he was still at school. So I just messaged him saying, hey, I miss you. And he replied, he said, same. And so we had this connection over there. So that's one way you can think about what's bothering you. And then you take care of that by actually addressing it. So that's a quick way that happens a lot to us. We have these thoughts and we just work towards that. I'll talk about other cases where we just keep on constantly feeling a wound that we have from our past life. That's one of the biggest ones. And there are things you can't do about them, that those things happen to you, and you want to heal yourself. And the way you want to do that is you want to hair out your wound. So somebody was bitter to you. They said something to you. You didn't like that. They made you feel ashamed. Okay. And when they made you feel ashamed, say you did something like you yelled at people, and then they basically told you that you shouldn't have done that. And that's bad for you. And you are a bad person. And now you're feeling ashamed because they told you you're a bad person. And the way you want to deal with this is through empathy. You don't want to take the shame in. The way we take shame is through 3 steps. And this is from my favorite author and shame researcher called Brené Brown. Brené says that we deal with shame in 3 ways. We move away from it, or we start pleasing those people, or we start replying shame with shame. And the best way to deal with shame is having self-empathy. And what we do is that they don't know how to deal with us. I mean, you just can't teach people how to have empathy. It's on their own doing. But what you can do is that you can be empathetic to yourself. So say somebody says you're stupid. You did this and that's stupid. What you do is that you take that and you say, people are not perfect. And so when you think about it, you forgive the person. What they said to you, you're still feeling it. You turn that into guilt. Guilt is a behavior. Guilt points to a behavior, not to a person. Shame says you are stupid. Guilt says you did something that wasn't right, or that wasn't intelligent. When you move the attention from yourself to a behavior, then you can work with the behavior. It doesn't mean you're stupid. In just that moment, you're not perfect. You did something wrong. So, okay, you know what? I'll be better next time. And that's a way of doing empathy. And there are many ways these things will come to you. Each time, either it's shame, or somebody yelled at you, or you did something wrong and you're feeling bad. Start with self-compassion first. Tell yourself, humans make mistakes. I'm a human being. Then you go into the feeling, you feel that part, you listen to your thoughts, what you're feeling, and you just explore the feeling. You keep on asking questions with yourself. And in the moment, you'll start feeling better. You'll start having those thoughts. So that was the question from Asra. I'll answer the question from Hira, which is about, how did I go from a leadership or from an hardcore engineering to a leadership? So when I was an engineer, I will say that I am lucky for my experiences. Even now, when I see my divorce, the experience I had, I used to think and force myself to look at it in a positive way. Now, when I look back, I do feel in a genuine way that was a positive thing that happened to me. And so similarly, when I go before that, when I was an engineer, I had mentors that taught me how to become a leader, how to look at situations. And there was one important meeting I still remember. I had this advertising architect who was grooming me. And around the same time, and those experts in those areas, they were actually more senior than I was. And they were deep experts in their area. And so this architect, who was also a vice president, he asked me to run a project, a technical project, and find the best solution. Because in the very first meeting when I was leading it, he came at the end and he saw what I was doing. And he said, when everyone left, he asked me to sit down and he said, why were you solving the problem? And I said, because I'm a good problem solver. He said, I know you're a good problem solver, but they are going to solve the problem. You're not going to solve the problem. So I'm like, then what's my role? He's like, the problem you're solving is to define the problem. That's a new problem you're solving. And so while they will go on solutions, you have to keep on thinking about the problem they should be solving. And that's how you think of it. So I went on that journey and I found out that defining the problem as a problem is more exciting than solving the problem. And that took me towards the path of leadership. And that's what leaders do. Leaders don't solve problems. They define the problem in a way that creates the right vision for the team to solve it. And in this way, you can define problems that excite people, that creates this pull energy, and people will just solve those problems. But you have to define the problem in a way that it's solving the right pain point, it's exciting people, and at the same time, it's growing them. And so I love doing that now. And because we all, and this is all you need to do is to connect your rational mind with the emotional mind. And so when I say leadership, it's not about you leading people. People who work with me, they were also leaders in their own areas. What we have is that we have roles to play. I had a role to play to define this problem. They had a role to play to define problem in their end and solve it. And the same thing with their team members. The concept of leader and followers is so old. We all are leaders, but we have roles to play and we become leaders in that space. So I truly believe that if you can connect your rational mind with your emotional mind and become like a team, that's an act of leadership. You become a leader. So that was from Hira. Thank you for asking that. Anam asked this question, which is kind of a hard question, that in a relationship, there are two sides of things. I can play my part, but what about other people? And so I can answer this question spiritually. I can give examples for that, right? Let's start with Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He wanted to spread the word of Allah. And he was connecting with the people. But they were not doing the same thing to him. They were being mean to him. And so he understood that part very well. And he still responded to them politely. He didn't kill them. He didn't do bad things to them. Because the only energy you want is a positive energy towards people. And so the two sides of things over here means that you should be doing your part. People may not be doing their part, but it doesn't mean that we should stop doing our part. And everyone has their journey. People are responding to their emotional beings. Not everyone knows how to work with the emotions that they're feeling. We have suppressed our emotions, not just this country, but everywhere you go, even in America you go, we have not been taught how to deal with emotions. And emotions are what defines our values. And our values come out as our behavior. What we feel is right, what feel is wrong. This is for me. I'm going to be mean. I'm going to hold everything together. And that's fine, they're doing that. It's their doing. So we'll still do our part. And if they're hurting you a lot, you don't want to be in a situation of harm. If they're doing something that's harming you, you don't have to be with them. No, I was once in a company where the manager and I didn't gel well. I don't know what was the problem, but we just didn't work well together. I remember he gave me feedback once and I was like, seriously, this is not the way to give feedback. We have this people who would give you 3 positive things and then they'll talk about 3 things you need to improve. And so he started talking about the 3 positive things. And as soon as he started with the second one, I knew where he was going. I could just sense how it was about to pop. And so when he finished the third one, I got up and I said, you know what, let's call it a meeting. I'm glad that you appreciate me. I'm going to go back to work. And he was like, no, I'm not done yet. I said, you know what, you're going to tell me that I'm not doing well. He said, yes. I said, why are you trying to deceive me with this 3 things and 3, these make up things, right? And so this person doesn't have these bad feelings towards me. It's just that he has learned some mechanism. He's been trained to do that. And he's just using it on me. And his intention is fine, but what's coming out is not right. And so his intentions were okay, I think. Now I think that, but his actions were something that was creating a false energy. So we also feel that, we judge people with like that. Sometimes people don't have the right intentions. Intentionally, they want to do bad things. And the best way is that you do your part. And if you can't deal with that, you don't have to be with them. Any more questions?
I do have, just let me fix this. I do have 2 questions, but we are kind of a little bit over time, I guess. It's late for you also. And I'm just going to ask one of them, which is very interesting. So, someone, what's her name? So her name is Iman, and she's asking that the things you are talking about, do you think these are applicable in personal life as well as professional life?
Yeah, this is what we should be doing everywhere. And so there's a Japanese proverb which I don't agree with. It says that we have 3 faces. One face is what we show to the world. One is what we show to our friends and family and friends. The third one is what we show to ourselves. In my definition, that's called hypocrisy. that you're behaving differently in different scenarios based on the context. You should have integrity where you show up. And it also makes life easy for us. We don't have like a scenario-based thing like, okay, when I'm at work, I'm going to behave like that. When I'm at home, I'm going to behave like that. Having one personality gives us the integrity, and that gives us the courage to behave in every situation like that. And the way we feel like we should be separating out is because right now, acknowledge that our mind and emotional mind is afraid. We fear pain. And that's why we want to behave differently in different scenarios. But once you build this connection, you honor your emotions. We all know what is the right thing to do. And you end up showing up like that. When a person in a position of authority doing something incorrectly, you don't feel fear towards telling us wrong. And the fear factor over here is that I'm going to lose my job. And if I lose my job, I won't have another job. Guess what? There are many jobs out there. And you will grow if you are not in the situation. So instead of focusing things like this rationally, we should focus things emotionally, use biological aspects. And that only happens when you connect. So if you haven't done this connection, these questions that you have right now are still coming from the place where we are at the moment, which is not connected. We got to connect ourselves.
Right. Absolutely agree with you. One comment for you. So Sukena has commented that, so proud of you, Talha. This was a brilliant session. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We also have like a lot of people saying that they can relate to the things that you're saying. Thank you so much, Taha, for giving us time, for being so candid, being so authentic, and talking about your own life experiences. It is difficult to share, of course, and I really appreciate your time and all the things that you have shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share the recording as well as the live link with you so that you can also share with your audience.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Great. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.